The Sun is the most powerful determinant of all life on Earth. The fate of the rest of the planets depends on that bright air ball in the middle of the solar system. In ancient civilizations, people even worshipped the sun deity. No one can fault the beliefs of those ancient people even today. Because without the intense energy and heat emanating from the sun, life would not exist on the Earth. But the sun is a dangerous object that hides a great amount of secrets. Even the world's most renowned scientists are terrified about that dangerousness of the sun. Today, you are informed about some of the most dangerous things of the sun. Even the scientists are concerned, even though they are not visible on the outside. Number 1. Ultraviolet radiation. As the result of our planet's ozone layer depletion, a level of ultraviolet radiation from the sun continues to fall on the Earth. Although ultraviolet radiation has some benefits for humans, it also has hidden dangers. As scientists have discovered, that ultraviolet radiations are given a great support for skin cancer, premature aging, cataracts, and undermining human immunity. The next thing you are going to be aware is something you are going to be afraid of, which is over the last 30 years, the incidence of skin cancer has increased dramatically. Scientists have warned that it will increase more in the future. Number 2. Solar flares. A solar flare is an enormous amount of intense radiation that is thrown out over the surface of the sun. It is one of the largest blasts in our solar system, and releasing a large amount of magnetic energy. The above-mentioned intense radiation diffusion can be described as a result of it. Could such a solar flare have a devastating effect on the planet? NASA says, such a solar flare does not cause such destruction. However, its electromagnetic energy being scattered on the Earth's atmosphere can cause damage to the GPS satellites as well as the Earth's energy networks and electrical equipment. Though this kind of situation can do a lot of damage, but people on the surface of the Earth are not harmed by it. Number 3. Coronal mass ejection. Coronal mass ejection, or even this mass discharge in the Sun's atmosphere, is another eruption on the surface of the Sun. As a result of this explosion, a large plasma cloud emanates from the Sun. In any direction, this discharge can happen. And the plasma mass that exits in that way moves continuously in the direction itself. Such an emission, throwing hundreds of billions of tons of a stock of matters, at speeds of millions of miles to the space, is extremely horrendous. So can such an incident cause damage to the Earth? NASA says no again. But as mentioned earlier, this solar phenomenon also can do serious damage to the electrical system. Because coronal mass ejection ejects superfluids, particles that can break down electrical systems. So, if such a massive mass discharge occurs, the transformers and satellites in our Earth's energy networks can be destroyed immediately. Number 4. Coronal holes. A coronal hole can appear on the Sun at any moment. Such holes appear to us as a black spot on the surface of the Sun. In the 11-year solar cycle, solar minimum, or during the period of a minimal solar activity, such coronal holes can be seen most commonly. The reason they appear in a dark color because their temperature is much lower than elsewhere in the Sun, or else because it is cooler than other places. Those coronal holes are made of unipolar magnetic fields. The danger of these holes allow solar winds to escape into space. That is why they are called coronal holes. So if such a stream of strong solar wind hits on our atmosphere, geomagnetic storms will occur. These geomagnetic storms can come in the range from mild to severe. Whether these geomagnetic storms will not harm the humans on the Earth's surface, as mentioned earlier, these geomagnetic storms are capable of destroying the Earth's electrical systems and satellites. The high-energy charged particles emitted by the solar wind is the reason for the northern lights and the southern lights phenomena that occur on Earth. That colorful scene is caused by high-energy charged particles emanating from the Sun, passing through our Earth's magnetic field and colliding with molecules and atoms in our atmosphere. But a solar wind caused by a coronal hole is not a such beautiful thing. For some reason, if astronauts are exposed to a solar wind while in the space, the high-energy charged particles travel through their bodies and damaging their DNA molecules called chromosome, and causing even cancers. So there is no doubt that these solar winds will be a great challenge to man for future space travels. Many people misunderstand that both the coronal hole and the sunspots are the same. Although those have some similarities, keep in mind that they are two different things. Number 5. Geomagnetic storms. In the year of 1859, the largest, modern-age solar storm has occurred. That phenomenon caused by a mega-flare-type massive solar flare is called the Carrington event. It caused a very strong geomagnetic turbulence on the Earth. If you are told what a powerful event that was, the northern lights appeared in Honolulu as well as the southern lights appeared in Chile. In the year 1859, sensitive electronic devices were not as active on our planet as they are today. However, the telegraph system at that time was badly damaged. Sparks went out from those telegraph equipment while it is reported that some equipment was on fire. A solar storm like the one that occurred in 1859, if occurred today, no doubt it would disrupt even the daily lives of the inhabitants of the Earth. Because moments after that happened, the communications networks, satellites, and energy networks will also crash. Some researchers warn that a large-scale solar storm could affect the way it feels for 10 years. Although such solar storms are very rare, scientists warn that such a situation could occur at any time. That's why the reason man is already working so hard to create technologies that can detect such a situation before it happens. Number 6. Travel between planets is very risky due to the Sun. You may now know that solar radiation poses a serious threat to astronauts. So think even scientists like Stephen Hawking have warned that in hundreds of years the Earth will become overheated and unable to sustain life. So mankind can only have a long life if the man becomes part of the interplanetary organisms. But, solar radiation interferes to it. According to NASA, there are two types of harmful radiation that rise against humans as they exit the protective bubble-like magnetic sphere that covers the Earth. One is galactic cosmic rays and, the other is solar radiations. Researchers are already working hard to find a way to protect humans from these radiations. But at the moment, going to neighboring planet Mars is also a big challenge for men. That raises one problem, which is, whether the man will be able to go to another planet before the Earth dies. Number 7. The Sun will gradually evaporate the Earth's water supply. This is the most horrible thing than everything else. At the moment our Sun is at a stable level of its life cycle, because it peacefully produces helium from its hydrogen fuel. Fortunately, the stars, same as the size of our Sun, are being at this stage for 8 billion years. 4.5 billion years have passed by now of that time. It still has 4.5 billion years to go. But unfortunately the point is, when the Sun burns hydrogen, its brightness increases by about 10% every billion years. When the day comes when the brightness of the Sun increases by about 10% then today, the location of what is now known as the Sun's habitable zone will inevitably change. This means that our planet is becoming a victim of it, due to the increase in temperature along with the brightness of the Sun. When that day dawns, all the oceans on our planet will evaporate. The destruction of the Great Barrier Reef, the largest living organism on our planet, is an early warning of that. Number 8. The ocean gets hot enough to start boiling. When the heat emitted by the Sun increases, global warming also rapidly increases due to the high evaporation of seawater. The reason is a lot of water gets trapped in the atmosphere. Water vapor is a powerful viable greenhouse gas, as is carbon dioxide. Therefore, more heat is retained in the Earth's atmosphere. When the temperature rises like this, the ocean gets hot enough to start boiling. This process continues, until the Earth's surface dries up. Number 9. Water escapes even from the atmosphere. If you think that life can exist as long as there is water in the atmosphere, keep in mind that because of the Sun, even that factor would leave from the Earth over time. Because after the Sun runs out of hydrogen fuel, the Sun becomes a red giant. Then because the Sun is getting bigger to near the Earth itself, the Earth's atmosphere would be destroyed. Because of the breakage of the molecules by excessive heat, the water as oxygen and hydrogen cannot be prevented from escaping from the Earth's atmosphere into space. So this is the dangerous profile of the Sun that gives life to the whole world. Later, that giant called the Sun would run out of its fuel, the mass degenerates and becomes a white dwarf star. There are plenty of stars in the universe like our Sun who have faced this fate. Appears as the planetary nebula is the outer layer that is released into space by the stars due to fuel depletion. In this video, you may have learned a lot of things of the dark and dangerous profile of the Sun that most of you do not know. Subscribe us to know things like this daily that you don't know. And also, if you press the small bell, You will know when a new video is posted.